Hey guys, it's James here again, and today we're bringing you quite a new rifle, new to the point that at the time of filming it's not actually on a lot of the websites, especially here in the UK. And this is the new Mark III Wildcat compact bottle. Bit of a mouthful, but for those of you who remember kind of going back years back, I used to have one of the original Mark I Wildcats and kind of regret selling it. So when they announced this newer version, the new iteration of the Mark III, I had to get my hands on one. So let's move in, have a look around this rifle, see what sets it out from its predecessor. Okay, so true replica reviews fashion. Let's start at the back with the things that haven't changed, and we'll work our way forward, and then we'll have a look at what has changed and makes this the Mark III over the Mark I and the Mark II. So safety catch at the very back, exactly where I remember it from my previous Wildcat. Where you seat your magazine as well, exactly the same place. Trigger, same place. Charging handle, same place. The stock, again, classic outline of the Wildcat, very ergonomic, very stylish, actually probably one of my favourite stock designs in quite a long time. And unlike a lot of the bullpups out on the market, this actually feels like a very compact and very short bullpup and is still insanely well balanced. With the weight being mostly in this section of the rifle, it sits in this position between sort of your shoulder and your foregrip. So it stays nice and balanced. You're not having to worry about too much weight at the front caused by this little guy, but we'll go into that in 2 seconds. Now let's take a look at some of the things that have changed from my old experiences of the Wildcat. So again, we'll start at the back, work our way forward. Now we have the power adjustment wheel on the back now. Now this is a nice addition for those that really want to get the best out of their rifle. Sometimes micro tuning and macro tuning, it's required. You need to do it. So to have this option now on the Wildcat in this really nice and simple twist position is a good feature. Now the ball indent in here is strong enough that when you make your adjustment, unless you physically turn it yourself, it's not going to swap out of position, catch on and close or anything like that. It's in place enough, but quick turn, job done. Now moving a little bit forward as well, now this was a really good addition, and I believe they integrated it into later versions of sort of after accessories with previous Wildcats, but the Picatinny Rail now comes standard. Now for those of you using night vision, Picatinny mounts like my Eagle Vision mounts, this really does open up the world of being able to use a much vaster amount of optics and mounting options than some of the older versions that included the dovetail, where you'd have to use adapters and you're adding things into the system that didn't really need to be there. So the Picatinny Rail, as you see, goes the full way along the top here. Really good addition. Now the really obvious difference is, and again this is kind of where the name and the title of the gun comes from, the bottle. They now have a 300cc bottle. This is the compact version on the front of the gun. Now initially when I picked it up, I was a little bit worried that having this bottle on the front rather than like a sleek cylinder going through would affect, one, the shot count, it's quite a small bottle, and two, the balance of the rifle. Now I'm pleased to say from using this here at the range and also out in the field, the bottle doesn't really seem to affect it too much, and if anything, it gives a really nice feel. You can just rest your hand along the front and on this bit of here, the palm, and it's just very comfortable. Now I have gone through and I charged it up to its full working pressure of 230 bar, and I shot it all the way back down to 50, which is where the Regulator is currently set to. And I got 264 shots in 22 caliber sub 12 foot-pound, which for a bottle this size is really good going. I was pleasantly surprised. Now because they've gone to a bottle over a cylinder where the port used to be in the front, for those of you that remember, you've had to change the way that you charge the air into the rifle. Now those of you hopefully will be able to see this neat little black dust cover here. Take this off and it exposes your filling port. Now one thing we did notice trying to use normal best fittings Foster connections, they don't quite fit. So just a word of kind of caution, only use the supplied connection that comes with your gun. Obviously you get one connection, one magazine, and it clips on really nice, clips off, and then the little black cover, simply place it on and it stays in place. Now one thing I was a little bit concerned about when I first took this out into the field is obviously this cover is on the side that will usually be rubbed up against your coat, against your t-shirt, against your side if you've got it on a sling. I was a little bit worried that that might come off, get lost. Now in the time that we've had this rifle, I've had it out extensively out in the field here at the range, and it hasn't come off. It's not even tried to come off, so that was one less thing for me to worry about. Okay, so one of the big changes really, and I think this is a good change to have been done, is the change over to an amp regulator. Now historically with FX, some people have got on okay with the standard regulators. Myself personally, I've not had any issues with mine. Others did. So a common change was to change the stock regulator for an amp reg. Now FX have obviously listened to this feedback and kind of worked on it and developed it, and the amp regulators now come standard with this Wildcat, which is good. That's good news. Hopefully better regulators, better consistency, better accuracy. That's what we want. Now one thing I do want to talk about is the two-stage adjustable trigger. Now nothing has changed in regards to how you adjust it or how it works, but being a true bullpup, all of your working parts are back here, and you'll see this little bar going across here. That's what connects the trigger. Now sometimes with bullpups, it kind of feels a bit spongy because you've got a bar that's got a connector that's going back to another connector, and again, it's adding different things into a system that don't necessarily need to be there purely because it's a bullpup. The trigger on this is very good. I've not had to adjust it out of the box. It's crisp, it's very repeatable, you know when the bite's going to go. So to have that with this bar, which, to be fair, rather than trying to explain it, let's take the stock off, let's have a look inside the bit that we can't see, and that might better explain what I'm trying to describe. So 2 seconds to whip this stock off to have a look at the inner workings. Okay, so we're back again. Now a couple of Allen screws later, you find that we now have the gun exposed like so. Now what I was trying to explain with the trigger and the bar is obviously your trigger is at the front here, but being a bullpup, all of your actual action and everything like that is right at the back of the gun, so it needs to use this connecting rod that you'll see going through here to link the trigger with the hammer, see it at the back. Now if you want to adjust your trigger, the adjustments are done with these Allen keys here. The instruction manuals are in the box when it's included. All I would say, make very small, very slight adjustments at any one time if you need to. I personally haven't adjusted anything on this gun because, to be honest, the trigger out the box was very crisp, it was very smooth, it was repeatable, I knew where the bite point was going to be, and I didn't see the need personally for me to start playing around with it. Now one thing that, as I said, mentioned earlier on, is you don't get that kind of dull feeling that a lot of bullpups sometimes give you. It's almost like a bit of a spongy feeling because you've got this link that then goes back here and it connects onto there. There's a lot of things going on rather than trigger, hammer, click. With the Wildcat, I have to say, much like my original Mark 1, the trigger is still really decent. No complaints from me at all on that front. Now, for those of you that are in the UK, obviously I said this was an amp regulator on the inside. We can't adjust it. It's blanked off, much like your impacts and other guns would be, with a little plastic gibbon on the inside. If you're fortunate enough in the UK to have a firearms ticket and want one of these, or if you live in the free world where you can play as to your heart's content and make all the adjustments you could ever dream of, that's where you make the adjustments. Now again, I will mention this just for even the sub 12 guys here in the UK, if you're going to make adjustments to the gun, please just make sure that it's not cocked. If you cock it, then make adjustments, you can cause a whole lot of damage on the inside of your gun. It's not worth it, and warranty probably will question whether it should be covered because user error. It quite clearly states in the manual, do it unloaded, but just bear that in mind. If you're going to make adjustments, please just make sure the gun is unloaded first. So let's move in, have a closer look and get this on the range, and yeah, have a bit of fun with it. Okay, so loading the 18 shot 22 caliber magazine, super simple. Just make sure this little rubber indent is on the outside, and you've got this track here. So you pull your cock and lever to the back, wait for the click, line up this little track, in it goes, job done. So now we've got the magazine loaded, let's have a quick look. I've got a target of 35 yards, quite a standard range to be shooting at. Like I say, I'm just using Superdomes. These aren't necessarily the best pellet for this gun, but it's all we've got to hand. It's an easy to come by pellet, so should be able to handle it pretty well. So, target's down there, rifle's here, let's get on with it. So as you can see, it's got a bit of a bark to it. So I've got a Donny Sumo mod, stick it on the front. Let's see if that makes much difference. So we'll just unscrew this cover at the end here. Exposes our 1/2 inch UNF thread. There we go. Take that, make sure there's no obstructions. Stick it on. So the joy with this moderator, it's still quite short, because it's got a decent bit of length to it. So hopefully this will make a bit of a difference. Now I hope that comes out on camera, but that is a lot quieter. So to see accuracy wise, target wise, we're getting good groups, we're hitting everything that we're trying to hit and aim at. Which, to be fair, for the purposes of this review, is exactly what we want. Now, I have got some grief in the past for not showing like 10 different targets or all the groupings in the world. But like I say, we're using just random ammunition that I had, brand new rifle, and to be able to hit 5 piece groups at 35 yards, for the intents of my kind of review, that's needed. Now, I will open this up for discussion. Obviously, feedback is always kind of important. If people want to see separate videos, we'll do a tabletop, and then maybe we'll do a separate, 10-15 minute long video purely on range accuracy and testing, then comment below, because the issue and the thing that I kind of worry about when we're doing these reviews is obviously I don't want like 20-30 minute long videos, because it's boring. I wouldn't want to listen to me for that long, let alone you guys. So if you do want to see separate videos, maybe showing a little bit more in depth rather than me just zeroing, getting some good groups and then moving on to the rest of the gun itself. Obviously, user, pellets, rifle, it's all very subjective. That's why I tend to try and kind of go through and just show a rough outline. But anyway, accuracy wise, out the box, spot on, can't fault it. So the Mark III Wildcat bottle, compact. Does it tick all my boxes? Yeah, it kind of does. Initially when I went into testing, I was a bit, not concerned, but my apprehensions were towards the weight and how that would be affected by the bottle rather than the cylinder, and where the fill probe was, mainly because it was up against me. I didn't want to lose the cap, didn't want it sticking into my side, little things like that. Going into it I was like, that's a bit different. However, from using them extensively out in the field, out the range, and just having a good bit of time with the Wildcat, I can tell you that actually there's no issue there. The bottle, if anything, gives your hand a little bit extras to rest against. Balance point still right in the back where you'd expect it from a Wildcat. I remember when I had my original Mark I, everybody, the first thing they would comment was how stable this gun was to shoulder from a standing position or, not rested. Exactly the same with this. The improvements that have been made, the better regulator, love it, and the adjustable external bits on the back that you can play with make this a really attractive gun for somebody that's looking for a true bullpup, not a semi-bullpup or an electronic gizmo, an actual full-blood bullpup. I've really enjoyed using it, so again, big thanks to the guys over at Sportsman Gun Centre for letting us have a bit of range time with it, and obviously for the guys at the gun room for actually putting up with me. So until our next video guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.